Okay, here is the next video on writing equations. This would be the very hardest ones that you would have. What's going to happen now, once again, we're writing equations, which means your final answer has to be y equals mx plus b. So at the end, we need y equals mx plus b. We must have a number for the m, and we must have a number for the b, just like everything else we've done so far this week. These are going to be really hard because if you remember on the last video, I told you to be able to do this, you need 3 of the 4 letters given to you. But guess what? We're not given 3 of the 4 letters. We're given an x and a y. We're given another x and a y. We're not given an m. We're not given a b. We don't have enough information. We got too much information. We got 2 x's and 2 y's. So what we got to do is before we even start the problem, we got to take these 2 points and find the slope. So you actually got to do work just to get letter M. So I like to say I'm going to over here on my scratch paper. I make a little bubble here and call this my scratch paper. And I'm going to do a whole separate problem just to figure out M. Now, hopefully you remember how to find slope. M from last week, y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. And since this up here is my first point and my second point, I'm going to call this x1, y1, x2, y2. That's just where it comes from. y2 just means the y coordinate of the second point, the y coordinate of the first point, the x coordinate of the second point, the x coordinate of the first point. This stuff just makes you look kind of smart how they have it written. So let's plug them in. y2 minus y1 is this number minus this number. So I need to get 15 minus 5. On the bottom, x2 minus x1, I got to take this number minus this number, 8 minus 3. Now, I think this one's going to turn out pretty nice, but sometimes you get fractions, sometimes you have all kinds of negatives in here, so it can get kind of ugly. But for this one, it looks like it's going to be okay. 15 minus 5 is 10. 8 minus 3 is 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2, so the slope is 2. So you had to do a whole separate problem just before you could even start this problem. So now what you got to do, I already know my slope is 2. And just like we did in the last video, now I just need my x and y. Then you say, well, I have too many. So what you do is you pick either one. It does not matter. You can pick your 3 and 5 for x and y. You can pick your 8 and 15 for x and y. If half the class picks this point and half the class picks this point, in the end, everybody will still get the exact same answer. Me, I'm lazy, and I'm going to go with the kind of easier one, so I'm going to use the 3 and the 5 instead of the 8 and 15. So I'm going to pick the 3 and 5 for my x and y. Now, we are actually at the point where we're at the exact same place as the last video. We know an x, we know a y, we know an m. So right here is the only thing new for this video. There's just a lot of steps that takes a long time. One of these problems could take you 5 or 10 minutes to do. So, I already got a mess in here, so I'm going to kind of come over here and clean it up. So I'm going to start with y equals mx plus b. My x is 3. My y is 5. Remember, m and x means multiplication. My m is 2. And I've got to figure out what b is. So from here to the end, actually from here to the end is what the last video was. So 5 equals 2 times 3 is 6 plus something. Oops. So 6 plus what makes 5? Most of you can do it in your head. I think it's going to be negative 1, but let's see. If you can't do it in your head, we're going to solve for b. Subtract your 6, subtract your 6. So b is negative 1. And you're done. The reason I know I'm done, I'm finished when I know m and I know b. So I actually had to solve over here to get m, then I solved here to get b. So I'm finished. I'm going to plug them into boxes. So m is 2, so I'm going to put it right here in m's box. b is negative 1, put it right there in b's box. So your answer would be y equals 2x minus 1. Now, if you wanted to graph this line just for the heck of it, because it's so much fun, it would actually hit this point and this point when you graph this line. If you started down 1 and put a dot and went up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, it would actually pass through 3 comma 5 and it would pass through 8 comma 15. Let's do another one. 1 comma 2 and 5 comma 10. So, before we start, you got to come over here. I call it the scratch paper. I got to do a whole separate problem just to figure out m. Because remember, it's y equals mx plus b. For my answer, I need to have a number for the m and a number for the b. So, over here, slope m, y2 minus y1, so 10 minus 2 is y2 minus y1. x2 minus x1, 5 minus 1. So 10 minus 2 on the y2 minus y1, 10 minus 2 is 8. x2 minus x1, 5 minus 1 is 4. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So my slope is 2. So I actually had to do a whole separate problem just to get slope. Now let's come over here and do our work. We know slope is 2. And for the point, you pick whatever point you want. Some of you may choose the 1 comma 2, some may choose the 5 comma 10. On the last problem, we used the easy point. This time, let's do the harder point just for the heck of it. So let's let 5 be our x, 10 will be our y. So now I'm going to plug it in. Let me zoom in here and write that kind of small. Okay, so y equals mx plus b. So y is 10, m is 2, x is 5, plus b. So y equals mx plus b. So 10 equals 2 times 5 is 10 plus something. That one turned out pretty nice. Because 10 plus what makes 10? Well, 10 plus 0 makes 10. So b equals 0. We're done. The reason we know we're done is because we know m is 2, we know b is 0, we need to fill in our boxes, we're finished. So m is 2, b is 0, and there's your answer. When you look in the back of your book or on your puzzle sheet or on your ACT, SAT, they're probably going to leave that 0 out. They're going to say the answer is y equals 2x. So, and that's it. Let's do one with some negatives and maybe one that has some fractions. So let me show you what a challenge problem would look like, something really hard. I'm cheating here. I got a book over here with some samples, so give me a second to find one that has some negatives and maybe even an answer that has a fraction in it. Well, I cannot find it. Okay, so let me just make up one, see what happens. We'll do one that has a fraction in it. Let's say we have, and I'm just going to make up 2 totally random points, so there's going to be a very good chance we have a fraction here. Let's say we have negative 5 comma 3, and let's throw in a 0, 2. 0, negative 4. Now, like I said, this could be very, very, very nasty. It could come out to be nice. So I want to throw in something that has a bunch of negatives, a 0, and see what happens. It's probably going to be very messy. So remember, y equals mx plus b, and our answer must be y equals mx plus b. We need a number for m, a number for b. So let's see how it goes. So let's find the slope first. So for the slope, y2 minus y1. Now just a quick little review, xy, xy. This is the first point. This is the second point. So y2 minus y1. Negative 4 minus 3. x2 minus x1. 0 minus negative 5. Be very, 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 very careful with your negatives. Believe it or not, most people who get this wrong are going to get the negatives wrong. Because here, negative 4 minus 3 and 0 minus negative, because it's subtracting and you have a negative, so it's going to get really ugly. Negative 4 minus 3 is negative 7. 0 minus negative 5 becomes 0 plus positive 5, which is 5. So the slope is negative 7/5. So this is going to be ugly. So let's see what happens. But you guys can handle it. On an ACT, SAT, they're not necessarily going to take it easy on you. They're going to see, can you handle these hard problems? I think you'll be able to figure it out. So let's see what happens. Let's go to our equation. Hopefully enough room. Y equals mx plus b. I'm leaving some space in here so I can fit everything in. And if you notice, when you do these and show your work, it's going to take a lot of paper. For me, I'm writing kind of big, but it's taking almost half a sheet of paper to do each problem. So let's plug them in and see what happens. Now, which point do you want to use? Do you want to use this point or this point? And I'll give you a hint that will help you out a lot. Zeros are going to be your friend because zeros are going to make things cancel out, and zeros are nice to work with. So if you want the easy way or you're lazy like me and want to get it done, I'm going to pick the point with the 0 every time. So let's see what happens. X is 0. Slope is negative 7/5. And so I'm using this point here. My x was 0, my y is negative 4. Plus b. So all I've done, I've taken the 0 and plugged it in for x. I took my slope and plugged it in for m. Take my negative 4, plug it in for y. This is why we like the 0, because guess what's going to happen when negative 7/5 times 0? Anything times 0 goes away. So that 0 is going to cancel. And a lot of the times in the book, that's going to happen. They're going to give you this messy thing and make you think it's going to be really hard, but they're going to have a 0 there probably, so it'll make it cancel. Or they'll give you a nice fraction here where you do top times top, bottom times bottom, and everything will cancel out anyways. So I get negative 4 equals 0 plus b. So 0 plus what makes negative 4? Well, 0 plus negative 4 makes negative 4. So my answer is going to be b equals negative 4, because negative 4 equals 0 plus negative 4. And I'm done. The reason I'm done is because I know slope and I know the y-intercept. So slope is negative 7/5, and the y-intercept is negative 4. There you go. Hopefully those examples were helpful. I'll try to find some links to some YouTube videos. If you don't like listening to me, that's fine. Maybe the people on there will explain it better. And I'm also trying to find a GimKit game for you to play with on your phones or your computers to kind of get you a little break from some of the worksheet work. So next video, I'll show you what your work's going to be for the next few days, and then I'll send it to you and let you get started.